My name is Daniel Abrahams, and the AI industry is ready to blow. Over the last few years, the AI surge has invited debate over the industry's sustainability. We've seen billions poured into AI projects and development regarding promising startups and vast infrastructure. This has led investors to ask, when is it too much? Following this recent web of AI deals that have entangled Nvidia, Oracle, OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic, AMD, and others in the mix, investors are questioning if big tech is actually making returns on their investment or if they are inconspicuously inflating their revenues. Combined with this wave of public hype, companies race to attach themselves to this AI pandemic, generating countless startups and making attempts to automate business functions, causing layoffs and making the workforce feel more and more defeated. Firms have put so much money into AI, its infrastructure, betting its exponential growth on its developments and promising that its automative ability can save them millions or even billions on employee expense. The truth is, the current AI industry is in a massive bubble, and the more focus that firms put on its disproportionate growth, the bigger the bubble grows, just waiting for a catastrophic pop. But there is good news. The resilient of the bunch, firms, professionals, and investors can survive the fallout and pick up the pieces of what's left. Behind the AI hype is a very real and hefty cost: computation, data storage, and electricity running up the bill. Training advanced models like GPT-5 required over 200,000 GPUs and weeks of runtime, translating into tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in cloud cost. Sam Altman noted that GPT-4 compute costs were exceptionally high, which is why OpenAI charges API fees. In 2025, US tech giants together budgeted over $300 billion in capital expenditures, much of which was for AI-focused builds. Much of that goes into expanding data centers packed with AI accelerators, like the NVIDIA A100 and H100, which then drives huge spending on power and cooling. Data centers are energy hungry. AI server farms are projected to triple their share of US power usage to 12% by 2030. For instance, Santa Clara saw its power demand nearly double from 2002 to 2024, with 60% of electricity now used by data centers. In Phoenix, around 60 data centers drew 1.5 gigawatts of power and uses 177 million gallons of water a day for cooling. This has led to long wait times for power hookups, transformer shortages, which Hitachi Energy says that new substation transformers now have a 4-year wait time, and rising energy infrastructure costs. In some areas, local officials have started pushing back on data center expansion due to power grid and land constraints. AI data centers not only devour electricity, but also cooling water and real estate. High-density GPU clusters produce immense heat, many facilities using evaporative cooling, which consumes large volumes of water. This is problematic in dry regions, where cooling of 1 megawatt of servers can evaporate millions of gallons annually. But thankfully, AI firms are starting to shift towards liquid cooling and on-site renewable energy generation to mitigate the environmental impact. Land is another issue. Giant AI server farms, like OpenAI's planned Stargate sites, require vast acreage and prefer locations near power sources. But not every region can host these massive data centers, which has led to immense competition for suitable hosting sites. These infrastructure limits contribute to cost inflation. The rush to accommodate AI expansion has spilled over to other supply chains. GE Vernova now has backlogs through 2028, and NextEra Energy says that costs of new gas plant constructions have tripled since 2022. To complement this, skilled labor is still in massive demand. With shortages of electricians and data center engineers, this further inflates costs. And AI firms are overbuilding their capacity. Analysts note that cloud providers are double ordering, where they are ordering more chips and breaking more ground on more data centers than currently needed. If AI demand falls short, some projects will be cancelled. We've already seen Microsoft pause some data center builds in early 2025 due to uncertain demand. Such an oversupply could leave behind expensive half-finished data centers and unused ships, a classic bubble symptom. And AI firms are increasingly shifting from consuming energy to producing, managing, and securing it. Companies like Amazon, Google, and Meta are signing long-term power purchase agreements for dedicated renewable energy, investing in on-site generation, and even exploring small modular nuclear reactors for data center power. Governments are also getting involved. The US is funding grid upgrades and transformer factory expansion to cope with AI data center growth. And China's state grid is rapidly building new transmission for its hyperscale clusters. These efforts solely demonstrate that AI's growth is gated by its physical infrastructure. If power and cooling limits hit a wall, they will cap AI expansion and can prick the bubble by making these efforts economically inviable. As ABB CEO put it, there are trillions in investment which are planned, but there are not enough people and resources to build all of this quickly, implying a reality check on how fast AI can actually grow. We've talked about the limits on big tech's ambitions on AI. Now, it's time to look at how investors are being fooled and led to believe that growing AI valuations are a sign of progress. The AI sector has seen a self-reinforcing loop of investments that several have already recognized as suspiciously circular. Big tech is effectively recycling cash amongst themselves to boost their valuations on paper. In September, Nvidia had pledged up to $100 billion to invest in OpenAI so that OpenAI can buy more Nvidia chips. In October, OpenAI struck a multi-billion-dollar chip deal with AMD where they are receiving options for a 10% equity stake in AMD in return to diversify from Nvidia. The chips in this deal, the Instinct MI450 accelerators, are primarily hosted in Oracle's cloud data centers. To top that off, Oracle then signed a $300 billion cloud capacity deal with OpenAI over several years. To actuate this, Oracle previously purchased $40 billion worth of NVIDIA GPUs. Meanwhile, Microsoft, a major OpenAI shareholder, is purchasing AI cloud services from CoreWeave, a startup heavily funded by NVIDIA, who also has an equity stake there. Did you follow that? If not, that's okay. That flow of revenue has baffled investors on how these companies are truly showing growth in their valuations. And these are just the main players. There's a vast number of AI firms tangled in that web that I hadn't mentioned. This increasingly complex and interconnected web of deals clearly resembles vendor financing in the late 90s, where companies and their suppliers took equity in each other to puff up evaluations without creating new end customer value. Bloomberg described this cycle as a trillion-dollar AI boom fueled by accounting smoke and mirrors. In vendor financing, a supplier helps finance a customer's purchases by investing in or lending to that customer. In turn, the customer's commitment guarantees futures for the supplier. It's essentially booking tomorrow's revenue today. Very reminiscent of dot-com era practices. Another tactic we see in these big tech deals are prepaid capacity contracts. Cloud providers like Oracle or Azure sign multi-year deals where AI startups prepay or commit to spend billions on cloud over time, in exchange for equity or other options. This boosts the cloud vendor's backlog and justifies building more data centers, which pleases investors, while the AI firm claims it has secured cash flows for growth. But the real risk is determined if the AI firm can't actually pay or fulfill that capacity down the road, similar to what we saw with unused dark fiber during and after the telecom bubble. Several have pointed out the revenue recognition tricks in some of these deals, recognizing prepaid cloud commitment as current revenue can overstate a company's actual growth. And current investor sentiment is deeply rooted in the fear of missing out phase. Despite discussions of a bubble, those who claim we are in a bubble are still heavily invested in AI areas. Many are convinced this is a paradigm shift and are willing to stomach these extreme valuations. But extreme fallout is just waiting to happen. Traditional finance metrics such as the price to earnings ratio or cash flows are being tossed aside. Nvidia at one point traded higher than 45 times their sales. And startups with minimal revenues reach unicorn status simply for having any AI capability. Now it's all about AI leadership over profits. FOMO is always amplified by hype, which is clearly what the AI industry demonstrates. When CEOs like Jensen Huang proclaim a new era of computing, or enterprise software firms like Microsoft and Meta rebrand products as AI-driven, it creates the impression that every business must invest into AI or be left behind. This notion has driven even non-tech firms to pour money into AI initiatives in fear of appearing obsolete. Companies are simply investing money in AI simply because everyone else is. This is a hallmark of bubble psychology. The current AI environment invokes the dot-com bubble most strongly. Like then, a revolutionary technology was genuinely changing the world. But markets overshot its capability in the short term. We're also seeing other comparisons like sky-high valuations justified by countless market stories, day trader euphoria, and a surge of new companies jumping into the AI space. This is also comparable to the crypto and SPAC booms. Money is just flowing in, chasing anything labeled AI, often through highly speculative projects. Retail traders have even called Nvidia the new Bitcoin. In 2021 and 22, several AI startups went public through SPACs at multi-billion-dollar valuations, only to see their stocks plunge as revenue didn't match their promises. And think back to the crypto craze in the 2010s, where companies like the Long Island Iced Tea rebranded to the Long Blockchain Corporation to focus on blockchain technology. Their stock tripled after the news was announced, but then after failing to produce any blockchain developments, they were delisted from the Nasdaq in 2021. As Jeff Bezos noted, when excitement is so high, it becomes hard to distinguish good ideas from bad. And Sam Altman himself admits investors as a whole are overexcited, and someone is going to lose a phenomenal amount of money in this phase. As AI tools are being deployed, companies have started citing automation as a reason for job cuts. As I noted in a previous video, AI chatbots and assistants are actively replacing humans in customer service, content moderation, and routine administrative roles. Reuters found Indian business process outsourcing hiring has sharply plummeted. Net staffing growth fell from 130,000 per year pre-AI to under 17,000 for each of the last 2 years. Similar trends are seen globally. Tech giants including IBM and Google announced plans to freeze or eliminate certain support roles due to AI. IBM CEO expected 30% of back office jobs could be replaced by AI in 5 years, and paused hiring accordingly. With AI hiring freezes, firms like IBM simply don't fill roles vacated by attrition, letting AI uptake shrink the workforce over time. In 2025, Goldman Sachs revealed an AI-driven cost plan, 1GS 3.0, aiming to automate parts of sales, onboarding, and reporting, warning staff of a 3 to 5% layoff despite overall growth. And engineers aren't safe either. Some software firms have slowed junior developing hiring, anticipating that code assistants like GitHub Copilot allow smaller teams to do the same amount of work. In controlled studies, generative AI has shown impressive gains for certain workers. At the National Bureau of Economic Research, The study found junior support agents using ChatGPT-like tools resolved issues 14 to 15% faster on average. And coding copilots can speed up programmers on routine tasks by 30%. However, broad economy-wide productivity growth has not yet materialized. An MIT Media Lab report found that 95% of organizations had no measurable ROI from AI, despite heavy investment. In fact, workers sometimes spend extra time reviewing or fixing AI-generated errors, which can offset the time savings these firms aim for. So, while tech optimists promised an imminent productivity boom, the reality in 2025 is that promised productivity often exceeds actual productivity. As Goldman Sachs analysts cautioned, we are in the early innings of adoption, with phases of true productivity gains still ahead. Public discourse alters between alarm and skepticism. The truth appears to be that narrow categories of work are being automated rapidly, but wholesale job elimination is more gradual. Experts note that automation anxiety tends to overshoot in the short run, but underestimates long run shifts, a lot like investors. For now, mass layoffs attributable solely to AI are not across the board. They are concentrated in certain sectors. But the mere fear of automation is affecting worker morale and employer decisions. But many jobs still require skills, where AI is far from replacing humans. In a previous video I did with a finance professional, he made it apparent to me that several high-profile finance positions still need that human element to make deals, communicate, and connect with clients. So, for now, there is still some breathing room. Sam Altman recently stirred controversy by suggesting that if AI can replace someone's job, maybe it wasn't real work to begin with. He implicates that as technology advances, our definition of real work continues to shift. His point was that future AI-created jobs might make our current jobs seem trivial. Altman has professed to be less worried about job losses in light of this perspective, arguing that human drive will find new things to do. Many could say that it's easy for a billionaire CEO to downplay someone's livelihood as not real work. Economists noted that even if certain jobs are low skill or could be automated, they are very real for the people relying on them for income, and society can't simply dismiss that. Altman's framing also glosses over the pain of transition. Historically, new jobs did eventually arise after automation, but those transitions often involved dislocation and required investments in retraining. Many experts underscore that without policies to cushion displaced workers, a bubble burst would leave thousands jobless and feeling that tech leaders trivialize their roles. Amid the hype, AI has spawned in new roles and bolstered certain fields. The AI boom is fueling a hiring spree in machine learning engineering, data science, prompt engineering, along with others, with some positions now commanding high six-figure salaries at top firms. A whole support ecosystem has formed from this as well. AI operations teams are to deploy and monitor models, machine learning project managers to coordinate between research and product, and AI compliance officers to ensure systems meet ethical and legal standards. And the infrastructure build-out is creating major blue-collar and construction demand, especially in data center construction, benefiting electricians, HVAC specialists, and construction firms. In the US, union locals report it's a good time to be an electrician. Between 45 to 70% of a data center's costs is electrical work, and demand for licensed electricians far exceeds its supply, as I said before. Each new 100 megawatt server farm generates hundreds of construction, installation, and maintenance jobs. The semiconductor expansion, like new chip fabs in Arizona, Texas, and New York, is adding thousands of construction and technician jobs tied to AI chip production. On the white collar side, AI consulting and integration services are growing. Companies need AI trainers, data labeling teams, and analysts who can translate AI capabilities for executives. Even industries like law and education are hiring AI advisors and curriculum designers to integrate AI tools and literacy training. So while automation displaces some areas of work, AI is simultaneously generating new roles in development, deployment, and support in both technical and operational lenses. And when the bubble pops, certain sectors are likely to expand during the correction. One key area is in AI governance and regulatory compliance. As regulations like the EU AI Act take effect, companies will need teams for auditing algorithms, ensuring fairness, and meeting standards. AI audit firms could emerge, much like financial auditors after Sarbanes-Oxley. Another growth area is AI safety and ethics, with red teamers who probe models for vulnerabilities and bias specialists who design impartiality fixes. Governments and NGOs may fund more AI policy analysts and evaluation roles. Infrastructure and energy sectors will likely remain strong. Even if AI investment falls back, the need for grid upgrades, efficient cooling, and localized data centers will sustain demand for power engineers and energy systems experts. Education and workforce development programs may grow as reskilling becomes necessary, creating roles for trainers who help workers learn AI augmented tasks. This could benefit various industries with a variety of administrative tasks. New AI integration firms may emerge as well to retrofit legacy businesses with open source AI tools. AI maintenance roles, such as model update specialists and prompt librarians, could become common within expansive enterprises. Later in the video, I will take a closer look at the specific roles and skill sets that are likely to be in the highest demand in the coming years. But as you can see, even after the speculation clears, capital and talent will shift towards practical and sustainable applications of AI, spawning in new industries that will most definitely need people to fulfill those roles. An interesting trend as the cost of proprietary AI soars is the momentum behind open source AI. Open models are surging in popularity because they promise 80 to 90% of the capability at a fraction of the cost. Several cutting-edge projects illustrate this. DeepSeek, a Chinese startup, shook the industry by releasing its R1 model rivaling GPT-4, but trained only for $5.6 million using 2,000 of NVIDIA's export-limited H800 chips, whereas OpenAI's GPT-4 reportedly cost over $100 million and used around 25,000 top-tier GPUs. OpenAI was originally a non-profit, open-source startup before it transitioned to a for-profit under Sam Altman, hence the open in OpenAI. DeepSeek's efficiency and its open-source model code inspired others to replicate or build on its techniques. ZAI, one of China's AI tigers, open source its 355 billion parameter GLM 4.5 model, inviting developers worldwide to use and modify it. And there's several other examples. Meta's Llama, while not truly open sourced, leaked weights which kickstarted the 2023 open source wave. Mosaic ML's models and Stable LM have hit the markets. And from China, models like Baichuan, Moss, and Intern LM are released openly. The driver is clear. Open weights equals lower cost. Organizations can fine-tune open models locally without paying hefty API fees. And even startups can download a powerful language model for free and run it on cheap cloud instances or older GPUs, dramatically cutting the cost per query versus paying OpenAI or Google. Open models often emphasize efficiency to run on accessible hardware, reducing dependency on scarce, expensive NVIDIA GPUs, which was a big concern for China. Techniques like mixture of experts architectures used by DeepSeek can make models sparser, using fewer active parameters per query. Other open projects optimize for CPUs or for alternative chips. For example, the latest DeepSeek v3.2 model launched in September 2025 was optimized from day one from Huawei's Ascend AI chips and software stack, so it can run without NVIDIA's CUDA platform. Within hours of release, Chinese engineers got it running on Ascend and Cambricon accelerators. This kind of cross-compatibility means institutions outside the NVIDIA ecosystem can still deploy cutting-edge AI. All of this reduces reliance on the NVIDIA's near-monopoly supply and could undercut the demand for endless high-end GPU purchases worldwide. Open source is effectively commoditizing the tech that some firms are spending billions on to reinvent behind closed doors. China has explicitly embraced open source AI as both an innovation strategy and a geopolitical workaround. The government's recent policy encourages domestic research to publish and open models to leapfrog Western closed models. By sharing weights, Chinese labs can attract global talent contributions and iterate their models faster. We've already seen rapid progress. Alibaba opened its Quen model family in 2024, ByteDance's AI lab open sourced its Kimi series, and even state-affiliated universities have released their own models. By optimizing software to run efficiently on Ascend and Cambricon chips, China circumvents US export controls and reduces the impact of being cut off from top-tier silicon. And there is evidence that this is working. When DeepSeek announced it trained a model on fewer H800 chips in a minimal budget, NVIDIA's stock plunged 17% in one day. Investors feared AI supremacy was not guaranteed by US firms. We now see two development paradigms. Big tech, with huge budgets, building large, closed models on proprietary hardware, versus a more distributed, open model community emphasizing efficiency and wide access. If the closed model bubble pops, the open model ecosystem is destined to benefit. In a post-bubble situation, many companies might prefer a proven open source model over paying premium fees to a few dominant API providers. This could democratize AI globally. Smaller nations can implement AI without currying access from big tech providers. Notably, many developing countries are already leveraging open models for local languages, like the UAE's Jais 13 billion parameter Arabic model, which was open source to encourage natural language processing innovation. China stands to gain if its open source first approach yields broadly adopted models. It could become a leading exporter of AI systems, especially through open hubs and cloud services. Chinese systems could be primary to the global South market seeking affordable AI. An open source shift could stabilize the AI landscape after a bubble burst. How? By breaking the dependence on hyped up expectations of a few leading companies and instead fostering a community driven innovation model. It's analogous to how the open source Linux operating system provided a stable backbone after the dot-com crash, allowing a new generation of internet companies to rise on a free, reliable, and community-driven foundation that replaced the expensive proprietary systems of the 1990s. A rich library of open AI models and tools can form an infrastructure for steady progress, less tied to speculative funding cycles. Companies will integrate AI more cheaply, the talent pool will broaden, and research breakthroughs can be shared more openly. Governments also prefer not to be beholden to foreign AI APIs. Open models can give them a greater sense of sovereignty. Of course, the challenges of quality control, security, and central coordination remain. But many experts see open source as a safety valve that will keep AI advancing, even if the current investment hype dies down. In a global sense,
This could make AI more accessible and evenly distributed, avoiding a scenario where only a few major corporations consolidate control and stagnate due to lack of input. The open source movement, boosted significantly by China's involvement, is a key reason that some argue on why the AI bubble burst could be a good thing in the long run, as it would redirect focus from hype to practical, collective development.
As we all know, the AI bubble bursting would likely bring short term pain on multiple fronts.
First, the stock market will likely see a sharp correction. AI heavy stocks will plunge in value. Given their outsized roles and indices, this could drag down broader markets, potentially erasing trillions in market cap. Goldman Sachs analysts estimate that if AI investment reverted to the pre AI boom trend in 2022, it could wipe over $1 trillion from projected revenues by 2026 and cut 15 to 20% off of the S&P 500's value. Such a large hit can spill into retirement portfolios and venture funding. Second, investors would incur heavy losses. Late-stage funding rounds and IPOs at bubbly valuations would face massive write-downs. VC firms might see some of their largest bets in AI go to zero. This wealth destruction could tighten credit and risk appetite in terms of funding. Third, we would see countless layoffs and company failures. Many AI startups dependent on continual funding might fold, leading to job losses for engineers and staff. Even larger firms could downsize experimental AI divisions that suddenly appear unprofitable. Chip manufacturers could scale back production plans, affecting their employees and suppliers. This is in regard to ASML or TSMC's engineers, construction crews, and far more. In short, the exuberant hiring and expansion between 2023 to 25 would reverse course with potentially tens of thousands of jobs cut or uncreated. Regions that boomed from AI, like Silicon Valley, Seattle, Austin, could face a mini recession as office demand falls and local spending declines. A bust would force a hard stop on numerous ambitious projects. We would see data centers left half built as companies like Oracle or Microsoft reevaluate their priorities. Similar to how many dot-com era fiber optic networks were laid and then later stranded. Some AI research initiatives might be shelved, like costly, speculative attempts at AGI could be postponed indefinitely. This represents a lot of sunk costs with nothing to show immediately. Billions spent on hardware that isn't used to capacity and experimental models that get pushed aside. For the energy sector, a sudden drop in data center growth could leave utilities that invested in generation capacity or grid upgrade with overbuilt infrastructure, though arguably that could be repurposed for other uses over time. A dramatic collapse would likely trigger public backlash against the AI industry. This could undermine genuine adoption of AI technologies that do have real value. The fallout of the pop might lead companies to actually underinvest in AI for a period, possibly out of fear of being seen as bandwagoning. Policymakers could also deprioritize supportive policies. For example, when the bubble pops, governments might cut funding for AI research under the impression it won't pan out, or delay AI friendly regulations. In education, students might shy away from AI courses as they perceive that it doesn't hold the same value in regard to job prospects as it once did. This could potentially cause a temporary talent gap down the line. Another negative is that the international cooperation on AI might suffer as disillusionment sets in. Countries and initiatives might shift focus elsewhere, fragmenting the global research community that had been collaboratively pushing AI frontiers. But this is where open source models would come into play, and workers already negatively affected by the AI boom might resist future AI implementations more strongly. If workers have already been burned, pushbacks to AI adoptions could intensify, with unions demanding strict limits in the workforce.
In summary, A burst would deliver a sharp reality to the optimistic narrative around AI, and rebuilding trust among consumers, investors, and talent would take time. But a bubble popping, as painful as it is, can have a cleansing effect on the market. Capital and talent gets allocated from speculative or overhyped ventures to more practical and sustainable ones.
Money will flow away from the 100th copycat AI startup or endless scaling of parameters and toward practical AI applications that have clear value. Think applied AI in traditional industries, infrastructure, hardware, and several other areas. And AI won't completely dissipate. Investors will look for AI projects that aim to solve concrete problems in healthcare, climate, supply chains, rather than funding AI for AI's sake. The overall result? A more efficient use of resources. Instead of spending $1 billion to marginally improve ad click predictions, perhaps that capital could go to companies using AI to optimize energy grids or improve drug discovery. Historically, bubbles often leave behind valuable byproducts, infrastructure and human capital that fuel new industries. Think of the British railroad bubble of the 1840s, which ended in a crash. It fortunately left behind rail networks that drove commerce for a century. And I emphasize the dot-com bubble again. After the bust, investment shifted to more solid e-commerce and enterprise software models, which ultimately gave us the modern internet that we enjoy today.
Remember, history always repeats itself.
For AI, the bubble years are building out data centers, cloud computing capacity, and specialized hardware at an incredible scale. Even if overbuilt, that compute infrastructure doesn't vanish. It becomes cheaper and more accessible. This surplus can incubate entirely new industries. For example, AI auditing and certification could emerge as a standard business service akin to cybersecurity audits, using all those GPUs to thoroughly test models for safety and fairness, a task that may become mandatory for AI vendors. We will likely see a growth in AI integration services, firms that specialize in taking open source models and tailoring them for all sorts of businesses or governments. A related boom could happen in reskilling and education. As the workforce adapts, companies and educators will create businesses around training people to work alongside AI. We already see early signs with the rise in AI-focused professional courses. The energy sector might see a boost. Since data centers need power, investments in renewables, battery storage, and grid modernization could accelerate. And those assets remain useful well beyond the AI craze, benefiting society by greening the grid. Additionally, if a lot of fiber optic cable and advanced networking has been laid for AI interconnection, that could benefit other high bandwidth uses such as scientific computing, virtual reality, augmented reality, and much more. When the hype dies down, often the proprietary technology becomes cheaper and commoditized. We're already seeing trend lines that a bust would amplify open source AI and cheaper compute through oversupply will drastically lower the barrier for entry.
This democratization of technology is a good thing. It means a startup or research lab in a developing country can access world-class AI capabilities without needing billions in funding. For workers and entrepreneurs, more democratized tech equals more opportunity.
Cheaper access also means academia can re enter the game. During the peak, only industry labs with huge budgets could train frontier models, but after the burst, universities may be able to afford to as well. This could lead to more diversity in approaches and less concentration of AI knowledge. Talent distribution may also improve. Not everybody will chase the 5 biggest AI companies' salaries if those companies cool off and more substantial opportunities pop up. Talent might flow into a wider array of industries, spreading AI expertise horizontally to other sectors, such as the several that we've mentioned before. This horizontal spread is where AI can actually deliver on productivity and quality of life improvements, instead of being centered in a few ad-centric firms. In the bubble, There's currently a mythic narrative of AI taking over everything, which sometimes sidelines the discussion of how AI can truly augment human work and creativity. After the bubble pops, the narrative could shift to how can AI tangibly and actually help people? Because businesses will only put serious investment into AI if it clearly does so. This could lead to more human friendly AI designs, more emphasis on AI assistance rather than replacement, and code development with input from end users, including teachers, doctors, artists, and who knows. These are all clear deviations towards an open source approach. For innovation, removing sky high profit pressure can be beneficial too. During a bubble, companies often chase short term wins, follow vanity metrics, and flashy demos to justify their valuations, even if they are inflated. After the pop, they can focus on steady, incremental improvements that over time actually solidify the tech. We might finally see AI deliver a long promised productivity boom when it's implemented steadily and widely across sectors, rather than hyped to unrealistic heights in only a few. The dot-com bust offers optimism. Yes, a lot of companies died between 2000 and 2002, but the internet itself was not a fad. It just took a few years for the real winners to emerge and for the technology to mature in order to truly fulfill the promise. Once the excesses flush out, the enduring players will drive AI forward in a more measured way. Jeff Bezos, when reflecting on tech bubbles, noted that they can ultimately be beneficial. When the dust settles, society benefits from the inventions that the frenzy funded.
In the case of AI, the inventions, advanced models, faster chips, novel algorithms will remain to be leveraged in solving real problems. And a cooler AI sector could be a healthier AI sector, more accountable, more user driven, and integrated as one more tool in the toolbox of innovation rather than being seen as a gold rush. That adjustment tends to make technologies more sustainable in the long run.
In the next 1 to 2 years, even if the AI bubble deflates, there will likely be resilient themes popular amongst investors, chiefly in infrastructure enabling AI. These are the pick and shovel plays that benefit from underlying trends. Think digitization, cloud, data growth, regardless of any single AI firm's success. For example, energy infrastructure and grid equipment companies. The AI boom has accelerated plans to upgrade the power grid and build new substations. Firms like Eaton, Siemens, and Hitachi Energy and local utilities might see stable demand as data center power needs force long-term grid projects. As I've mentioned before, energy producers are backlogged for years, suggesting solid revenue streams. Likewise, networking and connectivity providers are subject to benefit. With so much data transferring between servers and users, companies like Arista Networks and Broadcom are in a good spot within their markets. Chip packaging and cooling are niche, but crucial. Advanced chip packaging firms such as TSMC and ASE Tech aren't just relevant, but paramount for production and performance of modern AI accelerators. And cooling solution firms, especially those making liquid cooling systems or HVAC for data centers, will still be in demand to retrofit and optimize existing centers for efficiency. Contract manufacturers and suppliers for AI hardware, such as companies making silicon wafers, memory using DDR5 and HBM for GPUs, or even old school hard drives, as all that AI data needs storage, are viable. This could weather a bubble burst better than the frontline AI firms, since their scope of business covers diversified electronics demand. Think smartphones, servers, and personalized computers.
Essentially, the underlying digital infrastructure trend is bigger than just AI. And these types of investments are more aptly sheltered from investor hype circles.
Additionally, hyperscalers are projected to keep high capital expenditure because cloud demand and digital services are continuously growing. So, investors might rotate from glamorous AI software stocks to these nut and bolts areas. Looking out even further, several structural opportunities could emerge once the fallout of the bubble settles. One opportunity is AI safety and compliance. As I already mentioned, future regulations will likely mandate audits, documentation, and safeguards for AI systems. This could spawn a market for compliance software and consulting. Companies that specialize in AI model auditing, bias detection, or providing verified AI certifications could thrive. It's quite comparable to the antivirus software industry during PC growth. Another theme we may see is model efficiency and optimization. As organizations demand cost-effective AI, those offering tools to compress models, reduce compute usage, or enable edge AI will be valuable. Think of the software Pied Piper from HBO's Silicon Valley. For instance, startups in AI chip optimization, or even software like Neural Magic, which focuses on sparsity optimization, could see a growth in adoption. Education and reskilling are a social need turning into business. Expect growth in AI education technology. Governments and corporations might invest in reskilling programs at scale for laid off workers to transition into AI adjacent skills, which is an opportunity for firms in the training and certification space. Countries outside of the US will invest in their own domestic sovereign AI, much as the UAE did with their JAIS model. There's a clear opportunity for companies that provide AI solutions tailored to local languages and norms. Local startups or global firms could pivot to serve governments wanting their own AI. Several countries have already started making the bold move to implement AI elements in governance, such as Albania's AI Minister Diela, who is designed to combat corruption and ensure transparency. And Indian IT giants like TCS and Infosys are already building platforms for India. They may capture a lot of emerging market business by providing open source based AI to sectors like banking or education in Asia and Africa. Meanwhile, AI auditing and cybersecurity could become a specialized wing of the cyber industry. Companies in this niche could see long-term contracts with governments. Outside of the US and China, many emerging markets see AI as an opportunity to leapfrog, and open models give them an in. We already see major collaborations like Abu Dhabi's G42 partnering with US firm Cerebras to build supercomputers and open models. These markets will likely heavily invest in AI infrastructure. This bodes well for global companies that can supply them. European or Japanese firms making data center equipment could find new buyers in the Middle East and North Africa, India, and others. African nations too are starting AI initiatives, like Kenya's AI Task Force, along with South Africa's experiments in AI for agriculture. They might not develop giant models themselves, but they will adapt open ones to local needs. Hence, businesses enabling those needs, in terms of cloud platforms in Africa and open source consultancies, could thrive even further. India is an interesting case. With its massive IT workforce, if the Western AI bubble bursts, Indian firms might pick up the pieces and offer more cost-effective AI solutions globally. Indian outsourcing companies are already retraining staff using AI co-pilots for clients. In a post-bubble environment, emphasizing efficiency, India could become a hub for affordable AI development, much as it did for software after the year 2000 dot-com crash. For investors, that could mean looking at emerging markets that tech companies are quietly building AI capabilities. Some may be under the radar now, but can grow when overpriced US players fall. Refer to my last video about Chinese companies building Africa's digital infrastructure. During and after the bubble burst, we can distinguish which companies are overexposed to the AI hype and which are more resilient. The overexposed obviously includes Nvidia. If demand falters or competition eats into the market, Nvidia's earnings and stock could be hit hard. Enterprise AI startups valued in the tens of billions of dollars are vulnerable as well, as many won't realize their inflated promises. Anthropic and other OpenAI rivals have huge backings, but still burn cash. If the plug is pulled, They could crash unless they nearly triple revenue as soon as they hope. Additionally, Oracle's $300 billion cloud deal with OpenAI is concerning. If OpenAI fails to materialize its promises fully, Oracle's cloud ambitions can stumble dramatically. Fortunately for them, their core business functions are quite diversified and may cushion their fall. The major hyperscalers, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, are more resilient. Currently, they are very exposed to AI in narrative and spending, but they have very diversified businesses and ample cash. Even if AI expectations cool, they will simply recalibrate by scaling back investments rather than implode. Those with broad platforms are best positioned to brave a shakeout. They can acquire distressed AI startups for much cheaper after the burst and integrate them in their own ecosystem. In reference to chipmakers, Intel might be a sleeper resilient play. It missed the AI hype in which its stock languished, but it's investing in AI chips slowly. If specialized AI chip demand relaxes, customers might revert to more general purpose solutions where Intel still plays. In addition, Intel makes CPUs for data centers that will still be needed. Intel may be a case of slow and steady wins the race. Companies like IBM, which pivoted to AI, may have less downside since they weren't priced insanely to begin with and have long-term enterprise contracts, as IBM's AI sector is more consulting focused. Another resilient category is cloud service providers that do not specialize in AI. This is in reference to offering hybrid cloud, edge computing like companies Dell and Cisco, which can profit from increased general compute needs, even if AI specific growth slows.
In summary, firms that put all their cards on AI's exponential growth will fall the hardest, whereas those in which AI is only one growth vector amongst many should hold more steady.
In portfolio terms, for short term investment, one might look into the nuts and bolts of AI infrastructure and avoid chasing high promising AI software stocks that have far out profit horizons. There also might be a defensive play in companies that benefit from AI cost cutting. For instance, enterprise software firms that specialize in optimizing IT spending could see a boost as companies look to rein in AI cloud costs. Long term, the opportunities lie in the secondary effects of AI's integration, the safety, efficiency, and the education themes, as well as whichever domain that AI fundamentally transforms. It's also worth watching global diversification. Non-US markets like India's IT service giants, Taiwan and Korea's chip fabs, or Europe's industrial automation firms might be undervalued angles to AI that will persist beyond the hype. After a bubble burst, valuations are set, and sometimes the best time to invest in the survivors is right after the crash. Google, Amazon, and Microsoft all had their best days after living through the dot-com crash. Likely candidates are those with strong intellectual property rights, such as leading research labs, real user traction, and/or complementary assets that don't evaporate with hype. The key is identifying who the survivors will be in AI. Those survivors bought at post-bust valuations could be big winners, years after the correction.
In a post bubble world, companies will be laser focused on efficiency, reliability, and the safety of AI. So, engineers with skills in these areas will be high in demand.
Inference cost optimization is an area where engineers are adept at making models run faster and cheaper. This involves proficiency in model compression techniques, such as quantization to lower precision, pruning redundant neurons, knowledge distillation, among others. This also entails leveraging specialized libraries like TensorRT and Onyx Runtime, as well as using hardware-level features. Essentially, being the person who can cut a cloud bill in half by optimizing code That's a valuable skill when cost control is paramount. Model evaluation and validation will also be highly in demand as trust becomes critical. Engineers who can rigorously evaluate models for accuracy, bias, and robustness are needed. This means skill in creating testing frameworks for AI, as well as familiarity with evaluation metrics and datasets. An adjacent skill is data curation, understanding how to build high-quality tests and training sets, including identifying the gaps where models fail. Another growth area is AI safety and alignment frameworks. Engineers familiar with techniques to align AI with human intentions, prevent harmful outputs, and implement guardrails are valuable components in AI validity. This might involve skills like reinforcement learning from human feedback, prompt filtering techniques, or using libraries such as Lime or SHAP for interpretability. The era of single GPU training is over, even for smaller players. Knowing how to efficiently train across multiple GPUs or even multiple nodes is crucial. Skills in Kubernetes for AI, distributed training frameworks like Horovod or DeepSpeed, and parallel programming will remain crucial. Even as models might get smaller, the datasets and number of experiments often grow, so distribution know-how saves time and money. Additionally, understanding full-stack machine learning operations will continue to be relevant as companies still want AI integrated smoothly within their products. Having full-stack ability, from improving neural network code to deploying it in a scalable API and monitoring it, is extremely powerful. The more an engineer can cover the workflow from end to end, the more valuable they will be in a leaner post-bubble team. And engineers who pair their AI expertise with deep domain knowledge thrive fantastically. Imagine this: an engineer who knows finance and AI can build a robust quant trading program. Or those in the medical field could drive health tech innovation. In a post-bubble environment, there may be less generic AI building and more applications to specific industry problems. So, understanding the context, the regulations, user needs, data metrics in a domain will be a huge plus, even more so than now.
But it's not just coders, engineers who will need to refine their skills. Professionals in general, across industries, will also need to develop their own hybrid skills, mixing their understanding in AI with their own respective disciplines.
As I already explained numerous times, managers and analysts working in governance and policy literacy should learn the basics of how AI models work and what their risks are and how they can contribute to governance. This could involve familiarity with upcoming AI regulations, such as knowing what a high-risk AI system means under the EU's AI Act, and being able to help their organizations comply. Roles like AI policy advisor or AI compliance manager or something among those lines will require people who are capable in understanding legislation and enough of technology to implement valuable regulation for AI. In addition, professionals in operations or project management should hone the skill of integrating AI tools in business processes. Knowing how to identify which steps in the business flow can be automated or enhanced by AI could redesign the operations landscape entirely. I know universities offer majors like information systems or management information systems that specialize in the specific discipline of workflow integration. For finance and accounting professionals, understanding the cost benefit analysis of AI deployments is extremely advantageous. This includes understanding cloud computing cost structures, licensing models, and maintenance costs. So, somebody in this profession who can read a machine learning usage report and connect it to the cash flows has an edge over your typical spreadsheet fiend. For a specific example, Rogo is an AI platform that is trained by highly advanced financial and banking models that assist finance professionals in automating research heavy tasks like synthesizing market data, analyzing statements, and generating investment memos. This allows analysts to focus on higher level judgment and decision making. Similarly, RAMP is a finance automation platform that uses AI agents to streamline expenditure management, automatically categorizing expenses, enforcing policy compliance, and providing real-time insights for finance professionals. I use both of these examples because an accomplished finance professional that I look up to has impressed upon me that while in the finance sphere, these platforms are becoming more popular, they are largely unknown to a majority of students and entry-level professionals. That should indicate to you how the opportunities for professionals with AI skills are already making strides incrementally. And these are not the only examples. Though less apparent, those who specialize in design or user experience will benefit from learning how to design systems that optimally combine the human experience with AI. This includes skill in user experience design in AI, obviously, task allocation, and setting up feedback loops so that human corrections can improve the AI over time. Also, being able to assess the ethical and reputational risk of AI is key for those in leadership and management. This involves scenario planning. What if our AI makes a harmful mistake? How do we mitigate that? These types of professionals should cultivate the ability to ask the right questions about AI impacts on customers, employees, and society. Knowing how to approach and answer those types of questions are beneficial for professionals in compliance, advertising, product strategy, public relations, and more.
And I can't stress this enough. The overlapping of technology with domain skills will create hybrid roles. These roles will require a balance, maybe some coding or at least some data skills combined with strong domain expertise and of course soft skills, which you'll need for every path. This will create new AI translator careers.
For example, imagine an AI business translator working in a consulting firm, teaming up with coders and client executives to implement AI. They would understand the scope of the project, ensure the solution fits with the client's needs, and convey the requirements to developers and outcomes to the client. This is just a specific example. Think of the opportunities across sectors. These kinds of positions are likely to grow as AI moves from the lab to every department. People who cultivate both an understanding of AI technology and their own respective field will fill these roles. They will become the bilinguals, speaking both AI and business, or medicine, or whichever field. Professionals are already taking cross-disciplinary courses. From what I've seen personally, several business students and professionals are taking AI-centered courses. But this move extends far beyond those in business. The end state is a workforce more fluid with technology. Similar to how today, many roles expect basic computer and internet literacy. In a decade, the standard will be much higher, and many will expect basic AI literacy. And that definition of basic will be much higher than it is today. Those who have it early will shape how their industries adapt to AI after the bubble, making them highly valuable as organizations transition from hype to reality.
Welcome to the end of the video. If you are one of the special few that watched it in its entirety, I salute you. There's going to be a massive correction in the markets, industrial ecosystem, professional environment, and overall consensus. And you are one of the special few that recognizes this is not merely speculation. This is a reality.
Conspiracy theories now.
I've discussed in detail about big tech's inflated valuations, the physical limits of AI's exponential growth, how AI is currently affecting the workforce, the negative and positive impacts on the workforce, industry, and society after the bubble pops, investment opportunities, the shift to open source modeling, possible opportunities for new job creation, and the skills you'll need to secure those roles. You may have realized that there were several key themes that saw themselves repeated throughout the video. You should take that as a sign. I am putting the information right in front of you. Now you should take that, reflect, and consider what will be your next moves going forward. While a majority of people do not fully understand how limited proprietary AI and the main players enabling it truly are, a lot of people do know that the AI hype is going to produce a dangerous fallout. But even then, not even those people are completely prepared on how to brave this deadly storm. It's your job to cultivate your resources, refine your capabilities, build your foundation of knowledge, and maximize your opportunities. The AI crash might not happen tomorrow, but when it does come, you have to make sure that you've done everything in your power to position yourselves in a place of resiliency and prepared to take what's yours. Just ask yourselves this one question. When the time comes, will you be ready?